we're all human beings and we all make mistakes. And, you know, when you make a mistake, you pay your penance, whatever it might be, and you should be allowed to make a living and move on in your life. Is he good enough to come into the UFC and fight? You know, I highly doubt it.
Colin, read between the lines. Do you agree with Dana White supporting Greg Hardy's MMA pursuit?
Toughest question ever on the show, because I think Dana is right. You do deserve second chances. I thought Jay Glazer had a great point. And our colleague at Fox came out and said, I want to read this verbatim. I want to get it right. And he said, many of us in UFC and MMA, we train women in self-defense specifically to help protect against domestic violence. Me and my coaches at our gym do and take great pride in that. Competing in any sport is a privilege. Greg Hardy should not be granted the privilege. That's strong, and I can side with that. I will say this, where I think I side with Jay Glazer on this. One of the things that Dana White has done very smartly, the UFC was initially seen as a little crude and a little vulgar, eye gouging. It kept all the major sponsors at arm's length. And Dana and the Fertitta family cleaned it up. If you ever noticed, if you go to a match, there's a clean shot guy down, that ref jumps on that fighter. You want to keep the crude, the vulgar violence out of it. Is Greg Hardy, is he too vulgar? Is there a sense that he is not compatible with the new UFC brand, which is more corporate-friendly and, frankly, more female and family-friendly than it was 10 years ago?
This is a very difficult topic.
It is.
It's a very, and it's difficult, one, because, again, we're in a tight box here, and there's so much depth and nuance and context to this conversation that it's hard to have, actually, in this platform. But so I just want to say this. Greg Hardy, his journey, his life journey, didn't start where my journey started. He started out in a trailer park, and I'm in no way excusing the behavior he's been accused of or whatever. But when you really have an understanding of people's life journey and what type of environments they come from, I saw a college football player that was a big-time recruit. They showed him in his neighborhood, and him and I think his mother were beating up a woman. And people were, oh my God, that was terrible. And it was horrible to look at. But if you have spent, and most of the media, particularly the sports media, have not spent time in these really poor communities, really desperate communities, and understand gang culture and who's involved in it, and who might kill you, and who might beat your ass in Compton or in these, it might very well be a woman. And so if you grow up in that environment, your rules are different than the environment that I now live in and the environment that even I started out in as a kid, because it wasn't in Compton, in gang territory. And so I'm against disqualifying people whose journeys look so terrible compared to mine or others, and then say, hey, we got to remove them from society because they made this or that mistake. I know too many people. Look, Jim Brown is a guy I consider an advisor, a mentor, someone I respect a great deal. There's some ugliness in his past. I'm against writing off people.
Yeah, and you have been since we've done this show.
Yeah, and so it's just no way rationalizing the things Greg Hardy's been accused of or others. People's journeys are incredible. And look, we could go through some of the greatest men in history, ugly things, from slavery to all kinds of things that we have to overlook and accept their deeds and the context and the situation they were in then. So I certainly side with Dana White and don't have a problem with Greg Hardy trying to MMA.